Dr. Disrespect has a minor problem. Doc was banned from Twitch for sending inappropriate messages to minors via the Whisper feature. This event in and of itself was very bad, but I believe it's the tip of an iceberg large enough to sink Twitch like the Titanic. So today we're going to cover the details of Dr. Disrespect's fall from grace, but first, I wanted to open up this video with a personal story I've never shared before on YouTube about Doc that I've been sitting on for almost a decade. It's the story that when I saw this roll out on the news, I immediately said, yeah, that probably happened. That absolutely tracks based on past behavior. Now keep in mind what I'm about to say is extremely minor, no pun intended, and not particularly relevant to the immediate situation going on right now, but it does have a lot to do with Doc being loose with DMs. As a little bit of a history lesson, my channel blew up back in 2012, 2013 for the in-depth series leaking Call of Duty Ghost in 2012, and then leaking Advanced Warfare in 2013. My source for the Advanced Warfare leak was indirectly Dr. Disrespect. At the time, he'd retired from influencing and was working as a game developer, or at least on and off consultant with Sledgehammer Games. I believe he was their community manager and then level designer, if I remember correctly. But during that time, in 2013, one day a random message just popped up in my inbox out of nowhere from a guy I'd never talked to before with a lot of pictures and information of what would eventually be Advanced Warfare. It was like a year before the game came out. Everything was in super early alpha state, but I could still tell it was a CoD game. I could still tell that it was like, it looked like CoD for next-gen consoles. It was something that was being worked on at Activision, so I believed them. I talked to the person who sent the email, and when I asked them about their source, they said it was from Dr. Disrespect, who was not influencing at the time. He was using his regular name, Guy Beam. They said it was from Guy Beam, and they said the doc had sent them all of this sort of to either show off and or get their opinions about the development of the game. Not only did he send it to them, but supposedly, as I was told, I wasn't there, to several other people. After all the dust settled from the leak, my understanding from the situation is that the doc had been extremely loose with his DMs, wildly violating NDAs, and was just sending pics and videos to a bunch of people that he considered trustworthy friends, some of whom sent them to me to make a YouTube video. So I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, I've never met Doc in person. We've never had a conversation. We've never played in a game. I don't even think we've sent messages back and forth on Twitter, but I do still have this roundabout experience of him being extremely loose with his DMs and leaking a game that he was actively developing. I never revealed this information at the time because, first of all, it's bad journalism to reveal your sources, and second of all, he was an OG machinima creator like me. I didn't feel like ruining his career over something relatively minor, especially when it benefited me. Dang, that word is, gotta be careful about that word in this video. But now, a decade later after the leak and after it's been revealed that he was inappropriately messaging minors, I just don't care, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put that story out there, and whatever happens, happens. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to the issue at hand. In 2017, Dr. Disrespect was using Twitch Whispers to meet women and cheat on his wife. This is pretty much public knowledge. He's admitted to it, and I believe his wife even participated in a thematic apology video where she pretended to be an assassin. Then suddenly he was just straight up banned from Twitch without any explanation from any party, and nobody knew why, until about a week or so ago, a former Twitch employee claimed that it was because he was using the Whispers feature, or Twitch's equivalent of DMs, to message minors. About half of the gaming community rallied to his defense immediately before he came out on Twitter and confessed to doing exactly what he was accused of just a few days later. Then another industry source would come out and say the doc knew that the woman he was messaging was a minor and continued anyway. And then another Twitch streamer came out and shared a video of her DMs with the doc. This was a trans Twitch streamer, and apparently he was DMing her during the same time window as the supposed DMs with minors, so that kind of tracks. And I guess this tweet about supporting Nick Merckx and his Leave Them Kids Alone has not aged very well. Nick Merckx is in his own entirely different drama right now that we just don't have time to get into, but at least he disavowed the doc, so good on him for that. On the subject of tweets that did not age well, here's another one of the doc projecting his qualms about Call of Duty microtransactions and promoting drugs and wild things like that while he was doing worse. Then, Various industry sources claimed that while the messages were inappropriate, that Doc had committed no crimes, as in no action was taken upon said DMs. However, some people claimed that they were still bad enough to had to have been legally mandated to be reported to various authorities, or at least not legally mandated as per Twitch policy. Subsequently, Doc lost literally all of his sponsors. Turtle Beach left, YouTube took members away, I think he cut ties with the 49ers, his game studio dropped him, and I think that was a very appropriate response. But I want to move back in time a little bit away from the now that it's out, and let's talk about the then and the Twitch at the time. In 2017, Dr. Disrespect was one of Twitch's biggest streamers, highest earners. He was almost the face of the company, or the face of the brand, so it would have been extremely bad for them if this story leaked. So Twitch decided to bury it under NDAs, which is actually the main point of this video, and what I think is just the tip of a really big iceberg of conspiracy. For those of you that don't know, an NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement. These are standard across a lot of industries and are designed to protect proprietary information, corporate secrets, early previews of various media projects, and CEOs, politicians, or celebrities can use them to bury damaging stories about themselves or other people. Basically, it prevents you from sharing knowledge or speaking freely about a certain topic after you've signed the NDA. These usually come with some sort of money and payout to sort of guarantee cooperation. Importantly, an NDA cannot prevent you from disclosing a crime or being a witness in court. So if the doc had committed a crime, the NDA would not have been applicable any longer. However, that third use that we mentioned about burying a damaging story is exactly what I think happened here. I think it would have been very damaging to Twitch's brand to confess that one of their top streamers was not just using whispers for infidelity, but also setting themselves up for one of the most heinous crimes that a person can commit. Twitch also couldn't just come out and put Doc on blast to save their own face because of how they discovered the problem to begin with, which is they were supposedly able to read your private whispers, which the community at least thinks that they're private. This would have been a very bad look for Twitch. It would have made a lot of users feel very uncomfortable about the feature and the platform. And as an important legal heads up, the DMs that you send people on Bird app or Instagram or Twitch or whatever are often not covered under any sort of standard privacy law and are usually subject to whatever the company wants to do with them. This is just something that's factual and true, but not a lot of people are aware of. Now, maybe not a lot of people think about it, and seeing Dr. Disrespect get outed for his supposedly private DMs would be a big slap in the face and make people feel very bad about the product. So Twitch did what every big corporation does, and that's protect their money above all else, and they chose to protect their money with an NDA. With an NDA in place, they didn't have to out Doc as a predator, they didn't have to embarrass themselves, and they didn't have to confess to being able to see everybody's whispers. He was banned from their platform and was just sort of no longer their problem. They gave him the boot and they're like, we're done, that's it. You know, our hands are clean on this one, like Pontius Pilate. The issue is that he became everybody else's problem and they did nothing to curb the behavior. And that's why I genuinely believe that a new type of legal exception should be carved out for NDAs for exactly this kind of scenario. Because as of right now, what Twitch did is perfectly legal. Using NDAs to protect predators and other terrible people is even something the Catholic Church does on occasion to protect their predator priest, which is just an issue that I don't have time to get into today. And I think in this scenario, Twitch is the bad guy because they just punted their problem off to somebody else instead of dealing with it. They didn't really care that Doc was possibly going to continue preying on minors or committing infidelity or any other sort of bad things via whispers. They just didn't want the bad press for it. They didn't care what happened, just don't blame it on me, which kind of begs the question, and I'll take my headphones off for this one, and I'll put my conspiracy hat on, because we're going into pure conjecture town here. How many streamers have done similar things, but Twitch covered it up to protect their brand? I've seen a number of unverified reports from supposed former employees saying that it happened a lot, and that it happened with a number of very popular creators, some that would surprise you, and Twitch every single time acted in the interest of their money to protect their brand. It seems like we could field a whole football team full of Twitch streamers that are predators, and I'm afraid that it's going to be like the Minecraft YouTuber problem all over again. So, and I'm going to dog on Twitch pretty hard for this one, but I want to make it clear that I don't think that Twitch's behavior is particularly unique, at least not in American corporate culture. This is a very standard approach to this type of problem that most corporations will choose most of the time. If it had happened at YouTube, if it had happened at, well, Kick doesn't care. Kick will just let you stream anything. But any other major platform, TikTok, whatever, they all would have done about the same thing. But I do believe this makes Twitch the bad guy because they know who tried to use their platform to prey on minors, but won't reveal that information because it's bad for their brand. They chose protecting their brand over protecting children, which means somebody chose protecting their money over protecting the innocent, which I believe is like the definition of evil, at least in my book. And I don't know how deep the Twitch Predator iceberg goes, or specifically who the bad guys are, but I do genuinely hope that someday some employee somewhere grows a conscience and just YOLO leaks all of this. I've handled a lot of NDAs. There's been a lot of things I wanted to leak, a lot of things I wanted to talk about that I couldn't for various reasons, but none of them involve protecting innocent children, teenagers, middle schoolers, all the kiddos on Twitch. Somebody needs to grow a pair and actually leak this information, because exposing the predators on the platform is by far the best way to prevent it from happening again. Lastly, at the end of this video, I wanted to talk about how absolutely disgusted I am with Dr. Disrespect's army of simps that seem to be okay with this. During the first couple of days, there was, of course, the initial crowd of "this is just an accusation without evidence," which at the time was true, and that was mostly composed of fans that were experiencing some sort of cognitive dissonance, not wanting to admit that they'd enjoyed the content of a predator. Then, after Doc confessed to his unseemly actions, there was an outrageous amount of people still trying to explain and defend his actions as if there is any defense to them whatsoever. This army of pathetic predator supporters went through all of the classic arguments, such as claiming if no crime was committed, there was no problem, or saying that if he was never convicted of a crime, then he's still legally in the clear and innocent. Perhaps claiming that he was already punished enough by being banned from Twitch. Initially, a lot of people said maybe he didn't know that she was a minor, which turns out not to be true. Then there was a just absolutely revolting amount of people that were victim blaming, saying that the minor came on to him and it's partly her fault too for tempting him, which is like, when somebody says this to you, this is a telltale sign that you are talking to a terrible person with no moral compass whatsoever. And then the worst of the worst, the human equivalent of your grandfather's toenail fungus crawling out of the dead corpse of a bird that used to be Twitter to claim that it's normal for adults to be attracted to minors or teens. Basically just an army of PDF file apologists just trying to explain that, saying it's normal. And I think this is just a bunch of creepy people that would like to commit crimes on their own, but society won't let them. I don't know how many of these people were just painfully desperate to try to find a way to justify watching a predator for that long, and how many of them genuinely believed the horse manure that was coming out of their mouths on social media, but I guess it had to be some mix of both. I think most of the gaming community actually took this pretty well and responded appropriately, not watching the streams, very negative comments, businesses dropping Doc, but some not insignificant chunk of the population must have had a few magnets dropped on their moral compass, because if you have to explain to somebody why a 35-year-old man shouldn't be dating somebody in high school, then that person's parents need to be sent to jail for raising them so poorly. They created a detriment to all of society. And I'm sure that even in this video, there will still be an army of Dr. Disrespect simps flooding in, trying to explain why they think his behavior is acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable at all. I don't think companies should legally be allowed to cover this up with NDAs. And I genuinely, if I could lobby Congress right now in this emotional state that I'm in, I would lobby them to pass a law to carve out and like a broad exception to bypass NDAs entirely when it comes to the safety of minors or predators like Dr. Disrespect. And I think that anybody, for any reason, who chooses money over the safety of children is an objectively horrible person that even Art the Clown would be disgusted with. Guys, that is all for this video. That is all of my opinions on the situation. I hope that you enjoyed it. Enjoyed is a strong word. It's kind of a gross video, but I hope that you agreed with me. If you did, like, favorite, subscribe, leave your comments below. Drifter out.